So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of like non-chicken nuggets. So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Let's boost that sound quality. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Non-chicken nuggets. Non-chicken nuggets. But they're made to emulate the taste of vegan nuggets. Sounds tasty.
Hi, welcome to How to Make Interview Podcasts with Descript.
Hey.
I'm Christiana. I'm on the community team, and our wonderful guide, host, customer success, and product wizard today is Harmony.
Hey.
How are you doing, Harmony?
Oh, great. How are you doing, Christiana?
I'm doing awesome. You know, podcast events are some of my favorite ones that we do, so I'm just stoked to be here.
Me too.
And I'm stoked that we have lots of folks in the chat today. Welcome, everybody. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Type it in the various chats, and also maybe tell us what your podcast is about, or if you do other things, tell us what you're working on. We would love to hear it. And Lou said, "I'm the slayer of filler words," and that's what I like to hear.
Slay. Love it.
Yep, slay. But yeah, we've got a big event, or we're hitting a lot of ground in the world of podcasting today. So I will share my screen so we can go over some housekeeping, and then we can jump in. So how does that sound, Harmony?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. So, folks, this is our agenda for today. So we will show you how to get your stuff into Descript with importing, how to transcribe your media, and then, of course, recording with Descript. We'll show you how to correct your transcript and editing using both the script and the timeline, some different ways you can edit with Descript, adding intros, outros, and music to your podcasts. And of course, it wouldn't be Descript if we didn't hit on some AI magic with Studio Sound and Regenerate. Talk about collaboration, so how to work with other people in Descript. And then, of course, how to share all of your good stuff with the world, publishing and exporting. And then here is some best practices for today's event. Lots of you folks are probably watching in Crowdcast right now. Just want to give you a heads up way ahead of time that we've been having some technical issues with Crowdcast lately where sometimes the stream just stops. I've talked about it with the Crowdcast team. They're aware and they're working on it. But we always stream to YouTube at the same time. So if my friend Marcelo, you wouldn't mind throwing the YouTube link in the Crowdcast chat. If you're having any issues or the stream stops for you, I just recommend opening that up in another tab so you can hop over there really easily. But sorry in advance if anything comes up. Maybe we won't hit those bugs today, Harmony. Maybe it's our lucky day.
I'm feeling good about it.
Yes. So we're being hopeful, but just an FYI, and we'll be switching event platforms starting next year. So this won't happen again. But anyway, if we're good in Crowdcast, use the Q&A section for questions. Aforementioned support hero Marcelo is hanging out in the chat and the Q&A. And Marcelo knows everything about Descript. He is your go-to for your questions, so throw those in there. And then use the chat for reactions, commentary, anything else you want to tell us. Again, Crowdcast best practices. If we freeze, refresh your browser or jump over to YouTube. And this session is recorded. All of our live events are recorded, and you can find all of them in the live events playlist on YouTube. So if you want even more of us, jump over there, because there's like 100 events that you can choose from. But we'll also send the recording link in the follow-up email, so you will have that handy. If you need more help, check out our help center, help.descript.com. It is your knowledge resource base for all things Descript. And then join our Discord for community support. There are 17,000 plus folks in our Descript Discord, which is awesome. When I joined a few years ago, there was like 2,000. So it's awesome to see how that's grown. And if you're not in there already, we would love for you to join us. And don't feel like you have to scramble for that QR code. I will throw it in the chat. And then last but not least, you gotta get hooked up with your Descript Pro for free. If you are a new user or you're on the free plan right now, we'll be showing you some pro features today. So we want to make sure you get to use them. Use podcast 30 at checkout and you will get a free month of Descript Pro. So you can try out all the gadgets and all the cool stuff. But yeah, or you can scan that QR code and that will drop you out over to checkout so you can try this stuff. Again, that information will be in the follow-up email, so don't feel like you have to scramble. But let's see. One thing I'll say before I turn it over to you, Harmony, is that this is not a Descript 101. So we won't necessarily go into all of the basics of how Descript works. But we have lots of Descript 101s available on YouTube. So if you're like at any point, Harmony's on X Games mode right now, too advanced for me. I'm not a wizard like Harmony yet. I still feel that way. But jump over. Just kidding. Harmony makes everything very easy to learn. But if you're just like, I need some basics of how Descript works. Jump over to a Descript 101 session, and that should do you some good. Okay, awesome. Well, Harmony, I'll pass it over to you now.
Yeah.
And maybe before we even jump into this demo, thinking about interview podcasts in general or podcasting in general, what are some best practices you think people should keep in mind when they're starting out on this journey?
Totally. I think it's such a good question. And like, this is something we actually were talking about at last week's offsite with some team members. And I think there's some considerations to make before you even start pushing the record button. Obviously, like there's the gear that you have to look at. So I think like first and foremost, and I'm sure some people would argue me on this, but first and foremost, a good microphone, even over a good camera, because if you don't sound great, it's going to be hard to listen to.
Yep.
So audio clarity, first and foremost, get a really good, clean and crisp sound. If you're liking how Christiana and I are sounding, we are using the Shure MV7. It's a USB mic. But gut check me on this, Christiana. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I think I totally agree with that advice in general. And yeah, if it's a little bit pricey sometimes. So I started off, I think, with a Blue Yeti, which was actually, I think, $50 and then graduated into Shure mode. So I could sound good on our live events. But yeah, highly recommend that. Getting some kind of mic is better than anything, and definitely don't use your AirPods as your mic because I was sounding pretty bad for a while when I was first starting out.
For sure. Yeah. Especially even with Bluetooth headphones in general, I preferred wired just so that like you don't have any audio dropout or interference. So I think, yeah, definitely it's worth it. Even if you're just starting with a Yeti mic, and you can go all the way into like way more sort of advanced fancy mics, Audio Technica, condenser mics, get an interface, but I think that's kind of the baseline. And then you kind of have to decide, like, do I want this to be a video podcast or audio only?
Right.
Generally I say like record both, like record video. And if you decide later on, like, you know what, I don't want to use any of the video, maybe I just want to use some video for some social excerpts, then you have that flexibility. So I would say start with video. And so key to that is like deciding, I might need a remote recorder for guests that I'm recording remotely, or if you're recording in a studio, what does that studio setup look like? So obviously you'll need a good camera. So those are some considerations to make. And I'll talk about remote recording momentarily. And then just a couple other things, a good camera. I'm using a Logitech, but there's some things that you can use to supercharge it. Like Camo is a great app to boost the overall like quality up to all the way to 4K, a good key light, or think about like if you have a window in front of you or back of you, think about your lighting,
Yep.
and then how are you going to edit it, which is where Descript comes in.
Exactly.
And then last up, like inevitably you're going to be needing to host your show somewhere. So
Mhm.
there's a bunch of different options in Descript in terms of publishing to hosting sites, but
Yeah.
you want to think about where does this content need to live?
Mhm.
Did I miss anything, Christiana?
No,
Anything
those
you'd add?
were really, really awesome tips. I especially love what you said about, like, just record video in case, because it's better to end up not having to use something than wish you had something.
Yeah.
So I love that advice. I think that's all super great, and, yeah. Thanks for sharing those tips, Harmony.
Sure. Yeah, and folks in the chat, like, share what has worked best for you.
Yep,
I love kind of hearing the journey of like I started in audio only, and then I started to branch out into video, and kind of discovered when and if it makes sense to use it. So, yeah,
totally.
tell us how it's working for you.
Yeah. What headphones do you use, Harmony? Do you have any
Yeah. So
recommendations?
these are Sony's.
Okay.
Let's see here. These are the Sony's MDR7506 dynamic stereo headphones.
Okay.
I love these. I'm in a family full of musicians, and my dad was like, "You gotta get these," and I haven't
Awesome.
looked back since.
Cool. I'm on the market, so that
Nice.
is good to
Yeah, I
know.
recommend these Sonys. These are great.
Cool. Sweet. Well, yeah,
Cool.
folks in the chat, let us know what gear you're working with right now. And ask each other questions. Marcelo's in the chat and has a ton of experience with this sort of technical
Yep.
equipment as well. I'll ask those questions to Harmony as well during the Q&A. So, throw your questions in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, without further ado, I guess we can jump into Descript stuff.
Let's do
Um,
it.
yeah, let's go.
Perfect. So we're kind of jumping right in. So like at this point, you've most likely recorded your first episode, and now you're ready to edit it. So I've got a Descript project open, and for folks that are brand new to Descript, just so you have what Descript is at a high level, it's a collaborative audio and video editor that works a lot like a Word document. So when you create what we call a new project, you can ingest existing audio or video, or you can actually even record directly into Descript, which is really nice. And then kind of piggybacking on the remote recording conversation, Descript recently acquired a fantastic company called Squadcast. It's a professional remote recording
Ooh.
tool. Yay! Go Squadcast.
Yes.
So this is actually a great place to start for recording interviews. You can record audio only or audio and video. And the real beauty of this is that you get Squadcast for free with your Descript subscription. We also have a really tight integration where once you're done recording in Squadcast, there's a little edit in Descript button. What that'll do is it'll automatically create a project like what we're looking at here. And even better, it starts ingesting all of the content and transcribing it all at once. So it's literally just a one-click button, and then it brings all of your content over into Descript. Long term, you'll be able to do all of this directly in the Descript app, but just so that you kind of know like what the process is right now, that's what you'll experience. So let's say I just recorded in Squadcast. I've pulled my files down. You'll see here, I can add a file or start recording, or even ask AI to write. So maybe if you even just want to start out with writing some questions that you might be asking the person that you're interviewing, you can just jot down some notes. So you can even hit enter, start writing, and you can use it like a Google Doc essentially. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull in some audio here, actually some audio and video. So I've got these two files here, and you're just going to drag them right onto the composition. And that's going to kick off our transcription process. So this is like layer one of the onion of Descript is transcription. So whenever you bring something in, it's going to automatically transcribe for you. We also do what we call automatic speaker detection. So we've got two speakers in this case. It's two-way conversation. So we've got Marilyn and Petra. If we had a third person, fourth person, so on, we'd add their speaker labels. And this really comes in handy once we get a transcript back. So we'll be able to delineate in our script when and if like new speakers start talking. Um, we're also going to combine this into a multi-track sequence. What that means is we're essentially creating a container for these two files. So when and if there's things like crosstalk, background noise, this will give us some flexibility later on when we actually start editing, what we can make those edits. Say done. And I'm going to switch this to a video composition because I was previously in an audio only composition. And when I say the word composition, this is kind of like our version of a different doc, a different document. So I could basically bring in an hour-long interview. It'll transcribe, I'll be able to edit it down. And if there's portions of it that I want to repurpose, turn into short social snippets, I can create those as separate compositions. And that enables me to be able to create, short, snackable social moments really quickly. So I actually already transcribed this. So here's what I mean by composition. So they kind of look like separate documents. So here I've got an audio only interview. Here I've got my video interview with Marilyn and Petra. And then I've got a third interview here where I actually have 3 different speakers. So just so you can kind of see a range here. So I'm going to go to this Marilyn and Petra one since that's what I initially pulled in. And here's kind of the real magic of Descript. I'm going to play this real quick.
We are officially recording now. So we are recording. My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer.
All right. I love these are my friends here, Marilyn and Petra. So what I want to do is we don't need this first sentence here. I'm just going to highlight it. And if I hit delete, that removes the underlying audio and video. So now it starts here.
My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer marketing manager here at Descript.
So it's as easy as that. So highlight the stuff you want to get rid of. And then what I actually like doing, instead of doing a full delete when I do a paper edit, is use this ignore function. You'll notice when you highlight a range of text, you'll get this script toolbar that pops up here. A lot of stuff, a lot of power in the script toolbar, but this ignore function will allow you to essentially remove the audio and video, but track your editorial decisions as you go through. Generally, when I'm creating my first paper edit of an interview, I'll go through and correct the transcript. And so there's a couple of things I'm noticing right out the gate. Generally, with transcription, you'll get about 95% accuracy if your audio quality is solid. That's why good mics are so important.
Mhm.
But I noticed here that Petra's last name isn't spelled correctly. So what I can do is I can highlight just her last name. I'm going to use the correct function here, and you can use the C key as well to correct it. So by doing this, I'm fixing the transcript without affecting the audio and video. So that transcript correction is super important, especially if you're adding captions or if you're pulling down the transcript for your show notes. So Christiana, how are we doing so far? Any questions?
No, you're hitting on a lot of the good stuff. There's a bigger like project structure question that I could hit for you real quick.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, this was an interesting question. So is it project, sequence, composition? Is that in that order where we like break down how Descript works?
Yeah, great question. So I think like understanding Descript hierarchy is super important.
Yeah.
So if I may, I'm actually going to zoom out one level further. I'm going to pop out of the project just so you can kind of see this drive view. So This is your drive view. This is where you'll see all of your projects that you bring into Descript. So this is your bird's eye view of everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got your projects. So your project, think of like a project per episode. So that way you can keep everything neat and tidy. You can create folders that, maybe make sense for like different shows that you're organizing or different interviews. So maybe I could have a folder like all interviews with Christiana, all interviews with Marcelo.
Right.
And then essentially create a project per episode. Once you're in a project, then layered within a project, you have compositions. So compositions are essentially arrangements of your source material that you bring into Descript. So if I wanted to take a little excerpt here, and I'm going to copy that or duplicate it to a new composition, you'll notice it's generated a new composition, so basically a new document of just that selection, right?
Right.
Then sequences sequences when you ingest your tape into Descript. So if you're just working with a single mono track, you're not going to have a sequence. But if you have, let's say, if you recorded both speakers separately,
Mhm.
when you bring those into Descript, that's going to create a pairing of those tracks, thereby creating a sequence.
Right.
So did that kind of help break it down, Christiana?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's really key to know that you'd only have a sequence if you have multiple audio files.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you'll notice that after you bring your tracks in, if you click on the media button here in the file section, this is where you'll be able to see all of your raw unedited files.
Mhm.
And then here in the sequences, this is where you'll be able to see any sequences that have been created. So if I want, if I need to get into the sequence view, I know that like right here, Petra had jumped in. You can get to the sequence view by, you can right click on the script, or you can double click on the timeline down here.
Cool.
That'll take us to this sequence view, kind of like a more traditional DAW if that's your jam.
Totally.
And so I can, like, for example, here, Petra says we're here. So I can use our range tool to like get rid of that. That
Right.
way that removes that sort of crosstalk if I want to remove it from there.
Totally. That's awesome. And just to put it into perspective, folks, I've probably gone into the sequence like twice in my life. So if you're like me and just sort of maybe starting out or not doing as intensive edits, it's very possible to get your whole project done just with the script editing and the timeline. Does that seem accurate, Harmony?
For sure. Yeah.
Cool.
And I think, like, especially if you're recording, in a remote recording tool like Squadcast, the nice thing is that when you push record, it automatically will put all of your tracks in sync.
Right.
So unless things get out of sync or things get a little wonky, most likely you won't need to be working too much in the sequence editor.
Cool. Yeah, that someone just asked. So when you import something like multiple MP4 clips or multiple audio clips, did it create two separate audio tracks for you?
So when ingesting them, it'll pair them into a sequence, but then
Right.
you'll still have those original source files
in the sequence.
in the
Cool.
sequence. Yeah.
Awesome. So it'll
Great
take
question.
magical AI stuff, I'm guessing, makes it so it's all nice and compact and organized. But you can get down and dirty if you needed to.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks for
Yeah.
hitting that, Harmony. I feel like that was really helpful to just understand the structure.
For sure. Yeah. And you, like, it's really easy to go into the weeds with this. Like, Descript, you can keep it as basic as you'd like, or you can, get really fancy with some of this. Like,
Totally.
if you're recording with a multicam setup and you're going to be adding effects later on, you can make it as basic or as involved as you want it to be.
Yep.
But the beauty is that regardless of how many tracks you're working with, you get one really simple transcript to work from. And this is where I'd probably do like 80-90% of my edits is just from this transcript. And then the other surfaces to be aware of is, you've got your canvas here, which is where you see your video playback. And there's a bunch of different things you can do from here. You've got your timeline, which you can hide or show it. And you can stretch all of these surfaces out by just hovering over the line that divides each surface and make it bigger or smaller. And then you've also got what we call scenes, which are basically like distinct like segments in your video where you might want to break things up so that your visuals might change. So
Right.
good way to bring in B-roll or different imagery, or even, this might be a good segue. Usually when I have a two-way conversation, I like to have it so that we add scenes by active speaker. So check out this magic here. I'm going to add scenes by active speaker. And so now what it's doing is that whenever Marilyn's talking, we're going to get Marilyn full screen. And then when it transitions to Petra, we're going to get Petra full screen. And the cool thing is that I can always go into a specific scene and override this. So let's say if I want in scene 5, both of them on screen, I can go into my properties panel here on the right. And I'm going to show that layer so that maybe I want to see both of them side by side, and I can do some resizing, move them around over here in the canvas. So you can really customize it to look the way, you'd like it to.
Awesome.
But yeah, should we do some more editing in the transcript?
Yeah, let's do it.
Amazing.
For sure. And one thing I wanted to like underline, folks, is like, even though you see video on this project, all the magic that Harmony is going to do in the actual script would be the same as if this was an audio project, right, Harmony?
Exactly. So
Cool.
and I'll transition over to an audio project as well, just so you can kind of see what this looks like. But the crux of it is that, again, if it's audio only, you're not going to see that canvas, but you're still going to be able to do all of the text-based editing that we're going to do in the video interview that we're looking at.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you could always decide that you want video and change it to to a video project, right?
Exactly. And I'll show folks, let's say if you have something that's audio only, you could like turn portions of it into, an audiogram, or add captions and add visuals. So it's super easy to layer that stuff in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. So, okay, so we've imported some media. We've corrected a few things. And then as far as editing, one thing we touched on is, there's definitely, if there's large sections or even short sections that you want to remove, just use that ignore function, and that'll skip right over that. So if we go from here,
without anywhere to go or anything to do, just to keep up to date with people who I already.
So notice it just skips right over that audio and video. Another thing I like to do when creating my paper edit here is, if we go to actions, there's two main things. One is removing filler words. So when I choose that option, you're going to see a bunch of filler words over here on the right. And again, I don't like deleting them. I like using ignore. So I'm going to ignore. And I might not want to get rid of all filler words. So I'm going to select all, and let's just do repeated so's, as, like, we'll leave the wells in. Okay. So now we just have 28 of those filler words, and we're going to ignore them and remove all. So now let's play back. How about we go from here?
Chatting with her a little bit about how she's bringing her music and her artistry into the space of TikTok. For those unfamiliar, TikTok is an enormous video.
And so when things feel a little abrupt, maybe you're like, oh, I didn't like that so much. You can do one of two things. You could go into the timeline and maybe right here, it's all non-destructive editing. So if you want to get it back, just peel it back and you'll get that or you can easily just highlight that and ignore it. You'll get it right back. So a couple of different ways to do that. Another thing I like to do from the get-go, I'm going to go back to actions, is shorten word gaps. So if you're interviewing someone and they're like, hey, the doorbell just rang, or we need to pause for a second, you can go in here and find any gaps of silence. So in this case, they kept it pretty tight here. Let's see if there's anything longer than 2 seconds. Okay, so there's one instance where there's a pause for a little longer than 2 seconds. So I'm going to say, let's shorten that down to 1 second. And you can customize, the lengths here and shorten all. And then that'll tighten up that gap. How are you doing, Christiana? Any questions so far around editing?
Awesome. Yeah, let me throw this question at you. Can I also type in filler words that are not listed in the list that Descript provides?
Great question. So the short answer is no, but you can use the search function. So, and then, but it can also find repeated words as well.
Right.
But to use the search function, I'm just going to use Command F, and I'm going to search for, let's say, where does she talk about TikTok? Come on, find. Let's try. Wasn't working here. 1 sec.
No worries.
Match whole words. All right, let's try another word. Okay, the word fantastic. It shows up twice here. I don't know why TikTok wasn't showing up. No love for TikTok today.
Maybe it's just the way it was like transcribed wasn't the right. That happens to me sometimes. Like
Ah,
I'll search Descript, but it got spelled a little bit different. So it was, yeah, maybe that's it.
I think that was it. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't have a space. That's why.
There you
was no
go.
space. There we go. Okay. So we use the Command F or Control F if you're on Windows. And in this case, I want to find all instances where the word fantastic pops up. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the find function. So if I want to find where that word pops up and then I want to correct, let's say like all instances of where that word shows up, maybe I want fantastic to be all caps or capital F, or maybe I want to copy that media and like pull those sections out that I might want to repurpose later on. So that find function is really powerful.
Awesome. So cool.
Is there anything you'd add to that, Christiana? Did I miss anything?
No, I definitely recommend the search feature and bulk correcting. I do that a lot, or removing. I think Marcelo just brought up find and replace.
Yeah.
That's also pretty handy.
Yeah. So you could use that find and replace function. And you'll see that there's a bunch of other options here too. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stuff you can do in that toolbar. What's that toolbar called again, Harmony?
Yep. So I just use the quick key. This is the search function. So I do Command or Control F to get there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And then one more thing to kind of piggyback on that question around like sort of specific words that might pop up in your interviews. So like if you're interviewing someone and you know their last name's going to crop up a bunch and Descript doesn't transcribe it so well.
Yep.
It never gets my last name right. If you go to the Descript logo, you go to File, and then just kidding, go to Tools and go to Transcription Glossary. You can add common terms, names, acronyms here. That way, Descript will do its best to train from this glossary and improve the overall accuracy of your transcript.
Yep. Good
Cool.
hack right there.
Cool. So again, use the transcript to your advantage. You can do most of your editing from here, and then when and if you want to do, some more advanced editing, you can show the timeline. And there's a bunch of different tools down here that you can access. So the select tool that will allow you to jump to a specific point in time in your interview. The blade tool that allows you to make edit points in your tape here. So if I use the blade there, I could then use the select tool to just delete. I'm using the delete key to remove that. Your range tool allows you to select a range of material. So if I want to highlight that range, I can delete it. Or if I want, I could, if I need to realign things, I can do that. Then your slip tool is really nice, especially for longer form interviews. So if you have, let's say I want to go into this clip in particular, I can slip through that tape and get to a later time in the interview. Super helpful. And then the last one is this hand. This allows you to move up and down the timeline. So that's kind of a quick breakdown of what those tools are. We could spend like a whole session just on like sequences and working in the timeline.
Yeah.
But just wanted everyone to have a high level overview of those tools.
Totally.
Cool. Is it time to add some music and maybe some intros, outros?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Cool. So I'm going to add in some music. I'm going to add a gap clip at the very beginning because I want some music to start playing before they start chatting. So what you can do is, I like to use the timeline for this, just my personal preference. Grab onto the word bar, and we're going to add a little bit of silence here. Cool. You could also, if I'm going to go up into our stock media library over here on the right, this is where I'm going to grab some music. But if you already have some music sourced, you can just bring it on from your desktop, drag it on. So I'm going to find, let's find something funky. Okay. I'm always surprised and delighted by some of the titles here. What we find. Let's do Retro Funk Groove.
There's some really funny ones.
And you can go through and audition them, find what you like first. And then I'm just going to drag this right down here on the bottom. And so now we see our layer of our script track. And now we also have our music too. I'm going to, maybe if I want to add like a quick title card at the beginning, I'm going to add a little bit of silence here. I'm going to bring my music over. Boop. Okay. And then here, I'm going to add a shape. I'm just going to add a rectangle here. Cool. Add a little text. And let's change the color of that. I'm going pretty fast here. I would spend more time on this, but we'll do Marilyn and Petra interview. Okay, cool. So now we'll go back to the beginning.
My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the...
Okay, cool. And then here, I want to cut to, I'm going to get rid of the, oops. I'm going to get rid of that rectangle. So I actually had it last too long. So I'm just going to shorten that up. I'm going to shorten up that title. Cool. Now.
My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the...
And I'd probably add some fade so that rectangle and the title fade out. But you can see how easy it is to drop in those layers and then kind of manipulate them both from the timeline and in the canvas once you've got them in there. And this is also where the power of scenes really comes in handy. So I could basically take this and copy it and then put it at the very end as a final scene. So copy that layout and then go all the way to the end. I'm going to add a scene by just adding a slash key. And by default, that'll add a gap clip of 5 seconds. I'm going to have that in and around the same length as beginning. And then if I right click on that scene, paste layout, it's going to bring those same elements over. It's going to have that title card and the music, and it's as simple as that. One other thing I want to touch on, I'm going to go back up to the top here. Let's go to the very beginning. So right here, she says she's coming to us today from New York City. Maybe we want to have a nice like cityscape of New York. So I'm going to add a slash. That creates a scene. You'll notice, so here, got scene 1, scene 2. I'm going to add one more here so that just on this scene, I'm going to use our stock media library, but if I had my own B-roll, I could source it as, from my desktop, do New York. I can spell. And then find something that you like. Let's go ahead and I like that one. I'll drop that right on that scene. So we just want it to populate for that second scene here. Cool. So we see that layer apply down here in the timeline. And we'll also see it represented on the scene card. So it'll go from here.
Musician Miss Petra Gerard. She's coming to us today from New York City.
And so the music's a little loud, right? Like we could probably bring that down. One thing, you can either go right into the music track itself and bring the audio levels down.
Yep.
But one thing I like to use, you can also use our ducking feature. And so that'll automatically bring the volume levels down on your music so that you'll be able to hear the active speaker.
I'm always using ducking harmony. It's my best friend.
Me too. Especially because I'll be adding music like in different, portions of my whatever it is that I'm creating. And then it's like, it's so jarring when the music or sound effect is too loud.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's easier because you can always turn it back up, right? You could always increase the volume, but
exactly.
Yeah,
you can. Exactly. So use that ducking feature and you'll hear now it should sound a little bit better here.
Miss Petra Gerard.
See, it's much
She's coming
slower.
To us today from New York City, and where she actually performs. That's where she's based out of.
So see how adding that scene just makes it super easy to just layer in with whatever it is, B-roll, images, slides, makes it super simple to kind of chop things up as needed.
Awesome.
How about some more AI magic?
Let's do it.
All right.
That sounds great.
What you probably saw over here on the right, in addition to ducking, is our studio sound feature. And so studio sound, I use it on almost everything I record. So basically it's a background noise remover and speech enhancement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the music all the way down just so you can kind of hear the difference here.
Yep.
So here it is without studio sound on. I'm going to turn that off.
My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer marketing manager here at Descript, and I am.
So Marilyn sounds good. Like it's not
not terrible at
awful,
all. Yep.
but like the sound's kind of bouncing off her walls. You can tell she has high ceilings. So let's flip it on, and you'll notice that there's an intensity dial here. So if you want to, you can like adjust this down. My sweet spot's usually like somewhere between 70 and 80%.
Yep.
But now let's hear it.
I'm the influencer marketing manager here at Descript, and I am so honored.
So again, you'll see, let's hear it one more time.
Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer marketing. Marilyn Moser.
You can hear the difference, hopefully. Like I can hear them with my my headphones on, but
I can too. Yep.
it's brought up the proximity effects. The sound is warmer. So yeah, definitely check out.
Folks in the chat can hear it too. I'm getting
Amazing.
some OMGs and wows. Yeah, it's pretty amazing what studio sound can do. And like in my experience, the worse the audio, the better studio sound works.
Yes.
So, you know, I used to live in New York, and if I recorded something on my phone in my apartment, all of the New York sounds were in it, and studio sound would just get rid of it. It's so awesome.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Someone Ornella said, "What type of sorcery is this?" That is the AI type of sorcery.
Exactly.
It's very handy stuff.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Descript. Like at its core, it's an editor, but there's all of these AI features that are infused that really make it kind of a one-stop shop for creating and editing your podcast or even, you know, any type of video that you might be creating.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I'm glad folks are enjoying it. There's also another really amazing AI magic tool called Regenerate. While I tee this up, Christiana, how do you generally describe Regenerate?
I feel like I've said this to you before, but Regenerate to me is the Mr. Clean's magic eraser of audio editing. Yeah, it basically just gives you the opportunity to make a previously impossible edit possible. So that includes getting rid of some background, like a meow or a horn, or if you make a cut in the middle of a sentence and then the intonation is sort of like this and all of a sudden it's like this. That sounds really weird in a podcast. And Regenerate smooths that out for you, which is just only possible with some AI magic.
And even folks with like deep, rich understanding of like audio engineering, they're like, there have been times where Regenerate has saved me because like it's impossible to even like go into like, you know, certain moments and like clean it up.
Totally.
So what I did here is I cut out a little chunk, like a couple sentences here, and it was a pretty abrupt like cut here. And so what it'll do is you'll notice that when you regenerate, you can always restore to the original the original cut that you had. So let's see how this sounds. So where I made the regenerate happen is, and you'll see it down in the timeline, this is where the audio got regenerated in this clip. And you'll notice that also it's created a couple crossfades as well to kind of smooth the edges of where those edit points are. So let's hear it.
My career started by studying electrical engineering, and yet I am one of the worst electrical engineers that there is. It was through that.
Okay, so still a little, what I would probably do is I'm going to restore because I liked how it originally sounded.
Electrical engineers that there is. And it was.
Okay, so I noticed it's because he went so quickly in from the word is and. So what I might do here is we're going to regenerate there. So it takes a little bit of calibration depending on where you want to play, like exactly regenerate.
Totally.
So play around with it, but you'll notice when you have an edit point, you'll be able to go in and then with that insert with the script toolbar, you'll see replace. You're going to select regenerate. Now, the reason I'm showing you this with an audio only project is that right now, if I did this on video, it would turn my screen black. We don't have video regenerate yet.
Right.
So just want to call that out.
Yet. But the future is
yes.
bright, so stay tuned.
I think so. I think the future
For sure. For sure. One thing I wanted to add about regenerate too, I experimented with using it on my vocal fry. So it's not just for like words that you say weird or a messy edit. Like if you just don't love the way something comes out, you can use regenerate to clean that up too. I'll send the video in the chat so folks can check that out. But yeah, or if you have a cold and you are kind of sounding like this on one of the lines, it's cold season, regenerate can help you with that too, which is just pretty awesome.
And last thing I'll add to that is even like intonation and cadences. So like the famous I'm Ron Burgundy, it sounds like a question. You could regenerate it and make it sound more like a statement.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So sorry, I live in San Diego, so I had to have a quick Ron Burgundy reference.
I love it. Gotta shout out your town.
Yep. So check those features out: Studio Sound and Regenerate. They are magic.
Yep.
And then once you have, I'm going to pop back to my my video interview I have here. So let's say I've kind of like almost to a content lock point where I'm ready to maybe pass this off to someone on my social team or even export it. One thing I want to point out is just the collaboration piece of this. So that let's say if like this section here, if I highlight it, I can use this highlighting tool. And maybe if I highlight it, I'll highlight in purple because I like purple. I know I want to maybe come back to this and repurpose this section for social later on. While I'm here, I could also even use our commenting feature. So if I use the @ symbol, I can @ mention other people that are on my account. So in this case, I'll tag Christiana, say like, should we use for social? And then what's nice is that Christiana will get a notification saying, hey, you've been mentioned in this project. And Christiana could pop in. We could have a full-on conversation just like we could in Google Docs. So we have that opportunity to collaborate. And if I invite Christiana in, if I go to the project access, I've given Christiana comment access. But if I want her to actually be able to come in here and make some edits, I can switch her access to edit. It looks like you're a basic member on my drive, so I'll need to update that.
Yeah, upgrade me.
I need to upgrade. But now Christiana could go in and actually start making edits, so she could be editing in this project while I'm working, on a different portion of the interview. So very collaborative in that sense. While I'm here, since we brought up the basic membership type, it's worth maybe calling out our different membership types,
Good call.
Christina.
Yep.
So everything that I'm showing you today, this is all doable on our pro plan, and I'm what we call an editor. So an editor is a paid seat in Descript. These users can upload, transcribe, edit, export, all the things we're talking about today. And then if I want to add other people to my drive or project as what basic users are free. And they're more of a view commenter role. So while they're free, you can add as many basic users as you'd like, but they can only essentially give me feedback, view, and comment. They can't actually edit the stuff that I've created. So it's worth just calling out like what those two different roles can do. And I think Marcella is probably going to drop in an article too on like the differences between those two membership types.
Marcella was on it.
Thank you, Marcella. I know we're coming up on the end. So Christiana, should we hit publishing and exporting and then open up to some questions?
Yep. And specifically, I saw a couple of questions if we could talk about how we integrate with podcast platforms. You mentioned that earlier, but maybe just showing off that list.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's finish up with that, and then I'll throw some Q&A at you.
Outstanding. So, once I've like edited everything down, I'm ready to export it, share it with the world. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see this publish button here.
Mm-hmm.
You've got two options. One is good old-fashioned exports. So you can export the video, you can export the audio, GIFs, timelines, transcripts, and subtitles. I'll kind of go over all of these really quickly. So video, you can go in. If you have multiple compositions, you can do a bulk export by clicking all compositions. So if you want to get all of your social clips out at once, it's a good way to do it. Make sure all of your settings are correct and then hit export. That'll download the video file locally to your machine, and then you can upload it to wherever you might be hosting it. With your audio, this will extract your audio only, and it can export in a couple different formats: M4A, WAV, MP3. Export, and then again, that file will download locally to your machine. Then you can also export GIFs, timelines. Now, timelines, we could also talk about timelines in a session in of itself, but
Yeah.
the takeaway here is that Descript plays well with others. So we see this a lot with the professional podcast studios that we work with. So their producers will do basically that paper edit in Descript and then pass off the timeline to a sound designer or engineer to do kind of final scoring sound design. So you can do Pro Tools export, you can do Premiere export, and then that'll you'll be able to open your Descript edit in that application and continue to make edits from there. You can also export transcripts. So we also see a lot of folks exporting a full transcript of your interview and then make it available in the description or in your show notes. Super important for accessibility purposes. And then last up, subtitles. So you can get your SRT or VTT files out. And then publishing, this is really handy, especially if you want to just go straight from Descript onto a hosting platform. So if you click on this drop down here, you'll notice a bunch of different options. So you can go directly out to YouTube, Buzzsprout, Headliner. The reason some of these are grayed out, like Captivate, Castos, and Transistor, is that these are audio-only platforms.
Right.
So that kind of goes all the way back to the beginning of the conversation we were having of like, these are considerations you'll want to make when deciding, do I want to interview video and audio or just audio only?
Yep.
Okay, that felt a bit speed roundish, but I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions.
No, I feel like you hit it.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. Well, folks, we got about 8 minutes left, so I'm just gonna pepper some questions at Harmony. And just a reminder, throw any other questions you have in the Q&A, and Marcelo will get those answered for you. Okay, first up, Harmony. Someone wrote, "Are you saying Descript can replace Audacity?" And what's the answer?
Yes, is the short answer. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And then some too, because there's just so many other features built into Descript that can really supercharge your workflow, whether it's audio or video podcasts. So
Yep. All that AI
yes,
good
indeed.
stuff. Just Descript replaced Audacity for me. Just being able to use it doc style instead of just waveform was super helpful. So highly recommend switching
sure.
over.
And for me, it was like I was super intimidated by using tools like Pro Tools, and I think the benefit here is that it lowers the barrier to entry for folks that are just trying to tell their story and don't want to get bogged down by the technology. So, yes, that's the short answer.
Yes. Cool. Okay, awesome. Here we go. How do you pull the audio from a video composition into a separate audio only composition? Or do you have to upload audio only and blah, blah, blah? But basically, can you show how to transition a project?
I got you. Yeah. So what you'll want to do is we'll create a project, first composition, pull in your video, get it transcribed. Then and then we want to take an excerpt and make it audio only. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, got you. So what you'll want to do then is I'm going to take just this selection and I'm going to use the duplicate to function. Or actually, you could even take this whole composition. So I could duplicate this. And so then here's our, there we go. Is this our clip? Nope. I'll just use this clip. So take your clip, and then we're going to go up into the compositions, and we're going to set this to audio only. So now I've got my main interview. So I'm going to drag this up. So I've kind of got them side by side. So here's that video interview that I had. And then here's that clip that I want to be audio only. And then here's the copy that I made of the full interview. And what I could do is I can flip this to audio only, and I'll, for naming convention purposes, Marilyn and Petra audio only. That way I can kind of keep things neat and tidy in my organization of compositions over here. I hope that answered the question. Anything else you'd add, Christiana?
Nope, that was perfect.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Studio sound question for you. Does studio sound settings cover the entire composition, or can it work scene by scene?
Great question. So when you apply any audio effect, it's going to apply it to the entire file. So it can't do it by clip or scene. So that's why it's super important if you are interviewing someone that you record on separate channels. That way, if like your audio is really great, but your guest isn't, you can isolate that file alone and apply studio sound just to that file.
Yep. Awesome.
Great question.
Cool. Okay. Here's one from YouTube. Is there a fast way to transition across multiple scenes? So I guess like skipping around scenes.
Yeah. So I love using transitions. So what you can do is click on any scene that you want to apply transitions to and open up the property panel, transitions, and you can, like, let's say you want to do a cross fade in and out. And then once you've added those transitions, I've added them on scene 3. Again, you can use that copy layout and then essentially paste that layout and attributes across other scenes. But am I understanding that question right, Christiana?
I think so. Or maybe Benjamin is just asking about like getting from one scene to another.
Oh, yeah. So the way I like to go from scene to scene is just using the scene rail, using it like a lot like a Google slide deck or PowerPoint. Just selecting the scene that you want to jump to. And it's as simple as that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's see here. I'm seeing a few questions coming up about remote recording and Squadcast.
Nice.
Harmony, maybe just quickly, could we cover again, like what is Squadcast and what the sort of deal is with that?
Absolutely. So Squadcast is a professional remote recorder that allows you to record in high quality audio and video. Descript acquired Squadcast this last summer. And so with your Descript subscription, you get Squadcast for free. Yep. And we have a really amazing integration where you'll start your workflow in Squadcast. That's where you'll record. And then once you're finished recording, there's a little edit in Descript button, and it'll automatically bring your files over from Squadcast into Descript. So just so you guys can see what this looks like, I'll log in really quick to my Squadcast account here.
Love it.
Okay. So here's our nomenclature. Funnily enough, like it's pretty close. So I'm in my dashboard here, and I've got my shows. And I just have one show right now, but you can have multiple shows, or you could set up like different workspaces for, different types of interviews that you're doing. But essentially, once you're ready to schedule an interview, you say new session. You can start it right away or schedule it for the future. And then once you're ready, you'll just start the session, and that'll open up basically what looks like a Zoom session, but with much more settings.
Right.
And again, it's recording everyone on their own isolated tracks. So can't recommend it enough to start here with the recording piece.
Big time. Yep. Yeah. There's so many more bells and whistles to remote recording, and just like more technology made for remote recording that Squadcast has that Zoom doesn't. You can totally get by with Zoom. We all have at some point, But yeah, highly recommend checking out Squadcast for remote recording your interviews. Someone asked, so if I was recording in New York and my guest was in Washington D.C., what would I do?
Yep.
So our answer is using Squadcast, which you get
Use
for free.
Squadcast.
Yeah.
Yep. So schedule a session, and then all you have to do with your guest is you're gonna click on share link. And if they're going to be on camera or they're going to be recorded, they'll be on the stage. Copy that link and just email or DM it to them.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I feel like Squadcast is a happy note for us to wrap up on, because it is time. It's 2 p.m. for us, Harmony.
Goes by so
Um,
fast.
Yeah, this went really fast, and always like Descript is, I like to think of it as like a universe of creation tools and editing tools. So there's no way for us to hit everything in 1 hour, folks. But like I said before, we do events like this once a week. So we do podcast events, podcast specific events, video events, Descript 101. And last week I did a Squadcast 101 event that went through all of that stuff in detail with one of the co-founders of Squadcast, Rock. And I threw that into the chat. So if you have more questions about that, definitely go check it out. And we talk about best practices for remote recording in general as well. So definitely hang out there. We also do office hours every single week. And when I say we, I mean Marcelo. And Marcelo does those in Discord. They're at 1 p.m. PT every Wednesday, just about. And you can ask Marcelo specific questions. You can request demos. Marcelo's also just fun to talk to. So go hang out.
He's the best.
And we also do a bunch of different other types of office hours, like remote recording office hours and AI office hours. So jump into Discord and you will get access to all that good stuff. And somebody said, throw us a Descript promo code. You got it. It's podcast 30 at checkout. Throw that in there and you'll get a month of free pro. We'll send this info out in a follow-up email though too, so don't feel like you have to scramble. But yeah, this was a blast. I felt like I learned so much. And I have the pleasure of having access to Harmony's teachings a lot. So, Harmony, it's a testament to such an amazing teacher that you are. And thank you for leading us this past hour.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for all the thoughtful questions, and just know like there's no way we could learn everything in a single hour. So use all of the resources Christiana's referenced, and check out our YouTube channel. Our superstar Ramdy has created all these short, amazing tutorials. So if you're like, what was Harmony saying about scenes or whatever, you can go watch Ramdy for 3 minutes and give a very succinct answer on how to use them.
Totally. Yes. YouTube is an awesome, if video tutorials are your thing, definitely check out YouTube. But yeah, this was a blast. Folks, keep in touch with us. Join our Discord and tell us what you're making with Descript. I'd love to check out your podcasts. And yeah, thank you to Marcelo for answering a bunch of questions. And this is our last official Crowdcast sign up for event of the year. So thank you. If you've been with us all year attending these events, we appreciate you so much. And we'll see you for more next year. Awesome. Okay. Thanks everyone. Bye, Harmony.
Bye.